My colleagues, dear students, I am very pleased and honored to moderate this meeting in this university, which is one of the leading universities in Turkey with the international students. Our panel have two distinguished guests. One of our guests is from Koç University, Doğuş Şimşek, and as far as I know, you're all familiar with Fulya Hoca. She'll also give a talk on the topic. Now, the floor is yours, Doğuş Hocam.
Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to share my research with the students and the scholars at Altınbaş University. Just to correct, I'm not based at Koç University. I'm based at Kingston University, London. So I would like to talk in this 15 minutes about African migrants in Turkey and their situation in during the settlement process, and will also touch their everyday life and experiences of racism that are the outcomes of my and presenting outcomes of my research as well. So we see the increase of African migrants in Turkey since the late 1980s and early 1990s.
Doğuş Hocam, may I interrupt? Yes. We can't hear you. Could you please talk louder, please?
You cannot hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, this is better now.
Okay. So since the late 1980s and early 1990s, growing number of people from diverse African countries have arrived in Turkey. So the countries they arrived in Africa, including Ghana, Congo, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Kenya, Sudan, Nigeria, and Somalia. It is, of course, we don't know the exact number of African migrants in Turkey, but it's assumed that there are 50,000 registered ones, but there are also undocumented migrants, so they are not registered. But they have various different migrant status as well. So they might be like short-term visitors with valid visas, undocumented migrants who have legally entered but overstayed their visas. They hold business visas, and some students are in legal alliance married to Turkish citizens. Some Africans have business ties with their countries of origin through importing goods and exporting Turkish products. As I said, their reasons for migration are also diverse, but including security threats that are in their countries, economic difficulties, armed conflict, poverty, education, and transit migration. But many Africans, while they live in Istanbul, due to easy access to the labor market and community, other satellite cities were referred to by the Ministry of Interior Directorate General of Migration Management. My research is conducted with the Africans in Istanbul, but they mainly live in the neighborhoods of Beyoğlu district, Tarlabaşı and Dolapdere, and in the neighborhoods of Kumkapı and Yenikapı, and in the Şişli district of Kurtuluş and other neighborhoods as well. So I ask about their experiences of living in Turkey, and even though in Turkey it is stated that there is no such a thing called anti-black racism, but their experiences show that they do experience discriminatory behaviors and racist attacks by the Turkish society. So there are a few quotations from my participants that explains what kind of discriminations that they experience, but mainly this discrimination are visible in their everyday life and in relating to it when they're trying to construct links with the institutions as well. For instance, one participant says that I felt discrimination on the street. Maybe it's because of language barrier, I don't know, but I had some problems at work. But I work so hard, but I earn less money. I can speak Turkish, but they're treating me bad. Another participant from Uganda, he said that I had many difficulties, such as working too much but receiving not enough money. And he carries on saying that my African friend and another Turkish friend were doing the same job, but my friend was working much more than Turkish person and taking less money. And there are a few examples I would like to give from my female participants. One from Ghana, and she lives in Kumkapı, and she said that I had a lot of problem with Turkish people. They beat us every night. In another time, when I was working in ALTINBAŞ, someone told me that if you come back again here, we will beat you. They're not treating me as a human being because of my skin color and my migrant status. And she says, I don't want to be white, I just want to be treated as human being. And another participant from Nigeria, again female participant, she is saying that I feel discrimination everywhere at work, on the street, at the market, in the neighborhood. For example, at work, my boss says, be quick, and he forced me to work hard and longer time, and I experienced sexual harassment, and I had so many troubles, but I suffered. I left my work. Even in the work, I was working so hard and taking little money. So they're also highlighting the security concerns in Istanbul. For instance, two of my participants stated that there is no security in some places, but some people are treating beds because they're black. And while some areas are friendly for all cultures, so some areas are safer, but not everywhere. Another participant from Uganda, a male participant who lives in Dolapdere, he said that in Turkey people are taking out a knife, and when police came, they don't do anything. When there is a fight between Turks, black people do not involve in it, but police automatically take black people without asking the reason. Because they're black, they think that all black people are criminals. So I have shown you some examples of everyday racism that they're experiencing in their everyday life, like at work, on the street, when they're communicating with people. But there's also institutional racism, as we see that not only in Turkey but everywhere, black people assumed to be more criminal, and they were attacked by police more than white people. There are the two other examples that I would like to share, because these are important. These are also tells us how the level of racism that they're experiencing in their everyday life. One participant said that Istanbul is a place where I can see black people more than other cities, but I feel discriminated. In Istanbul, someone calls me Zenci. When you're at metro, they don't sit near you. Another participant also stated the same thing, and she said that last week I was on the bus going to Taksim, but the bus was crowded. I wanted to give my place to a woman, but she refused to sit next to me. She doesn't want my skin to touch her skin. This is very sad. That happens to black people in Turkey a lot. So when an environment where harmony and friendliness is established between the migrants and the society and receiving society, it does not materialize, and everyday racism turns into a violent event. But African migrants grow concerned about their individual safety. This is what they highlighted. Experiencing racism in everyday life, including at the workplace, on the street, in the neighborhood, has blocked their settlement process as well. Exclusion of African migrants from the labor market and sociocultural environment is a common reaction to the visibility of Africans in everyday life. The similar reactions from the receiving society are also visible in other parts of the world, especially in Europe, when we look at, for instance, the case of Roma people and many other migrant communities. So the accounts of African migrants here, they can be defined as an example of everyday racism, because they talk about their practices in everyday life that can be generalized, repetitive, involve socialized attitudes, and are reflected in interactions with local people from the wider stratifications in society, such as in discussion with Turks, at school with teachers and classmates, and on the street with the neighborhood's community, at the workplace as well. Many respondents also didn't use the words, directly use the words, racist, racism, racist attacks when they refer to their experiences and social relations with the local people. But they're aware that they have been subjected to racism, and racism creates a barrier in their settlement process in Turkey. I also interviewed Turkish people about their, to find out about their view on African migrants. Many Turkish citizens, especially those among Turkey's poor, believe that African migrants are burglars, beggars, or criminals, are cultural different, not modern, but creating social tension. These phrases are also an expression of xenophobic and racist discourse. So what we see is that power relations that are reflected in everyday interactions between the receiving society and African migrants are one of the main bases for the construction of everyday racism. So the public's grievances about African migrants are primarily concerned with culture, values, and also sustainability. I would also like to show, provide some examples that highlights the thoughts of the receiving society about African migrants. One participant from Istanbul, a female Turkish citizen, she said that we Turks, that she refers to, do not want Africans here. Their culture is different than ours. They fight a lot. They play poker, and I'm disgusted to see them. They're not suitable for our society. They're not clean. We are afraid to be sick. This area was better before they come. And she lives in Dolapdere. And another participant, this is also from Istanbul, a male participant, he says that they are criminals. Burglary has increased in these neighborhoods, again in Dolapdere. We are not happy to live with Africans. There are fights every day in these neighborhoods. So this quotations also express common thoughts about African migrants in Istanbul, but as also when participants talk about Africans, they often speak as dominant group members and pertain to a group belonging in general, such as we don't want Africans here. Although I asked them about their thoughts and personal thoughts and experiences of living with African migrants, they refer to group feelings to justify their own racist discourses. They also mark social boundaries, recreate segregated spaces based on identity and culture. In this case, sociocultural segregation highlights the dichotomy between our and their culture that implies that former culture is superior. When the participant states cultural repertoires of African migrants, they often talk about negative connotations such as they fight a lot, drink alcohol, play poker, but they're not suitable for our society, they're not clean, we are afraid to be sick, to justify assumption that our culture is superior. Everyday racism therefore exists within the structure of group power, and in which the local people either actively or passively maintain a distinction between us and African migrants. As supported by the empirical data, also structural inequalities are reinforced through everyday practices. The racist ideologies are expressed in discourses that represents the group's thoughts about African migrants taking place within social interactions and practices in everyday life with African migrants that can be defined as an example of everyday racism. The everyday racism therefore consists of practices that can be generalized. It relates to experiences, but also illustrates consistency of practices in all levels of society and exists within the structure of group power, in which structural inequalities reinforced through everyday practices and also interactions. So these are the experiences of African migrants that I've spoken to in the last 3 years in Istanbul, and it is obvious that they do experience racism and as well as violent attacks in Turkey. So that's all from me. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Doğuş Hocam. I would like to once more underline that I'm very proud to be in this meeting in a university within which leading in terms of its number of international students, and I think this discussion by Doğuş Hoca will provide insightful points for a discussion, but we'll have the Q&A afterwards. So let's continue with Fulya Hoca now. Fulya Hoca, ground is yours.
Is my microphone on? Okay.
Does it work?
I don't know. Thank you, Eylem Hoca. Now I will talk about a different aspect of the discrimination today, actually, which is not an independent or separate one. As you can see, I will talk about gender-based discrimination. I said that it is not an independent part of discrimination because it's a gender-based discrimination lies actually at the center of all forms of discrimination because there is an intersection sorry, between gender and all other grounds for discrimination. As you can see from the chart, there's an intersectionality between social origin, religion, ethnicity, disability, age, and so on. This means that actually gender-based discrimination has an important an important impact, especially by doubling the effects of discrimination, because gender-based discrimination is actually inherent in all forms of discrimination. Then this means that if you face a form of discrimination as a woman, then you face both, for example, racial discrimination, but also a discrimination because you are a woman. Okay, then therefore we cannot separate gender-based discrimination from all other types of discrimination, because you are in gender-based discrimination, you are discriminated only because you are a woman and belong to a specific group, a race, or a religious minority, and so on. You may be a migrant, an asylum seeker, an elder woman, a woman with disabilities, and this actually doubles and sometimes triples the effect of discrimination. For example, an elderly woman is more prone to poverty because of the experiences she experienced actually through inequalities she experienced through her life, like doing unpaid work, or although as a woman you were employed but paid less than a man, and so on. Or if you are an asylum seeker and a woman, then this means you will be you are prone to discriminated double, because actually an asylum seeker does not fit into the conventional refugee category and is prone to discrimination. But if you are a woman and an asylum seeker, then you are more prone to both racial, maybe, and gender-based discrimination, especially gender-based violence, and as an asylum seeker without spatial protection or a specific protection. Now, gender discrimination is then a situation where people are treated different because they are female or male. Now, actually, women are mostly the subject of gender-based discrimination, they are experiencing violence, or they are restricted from freedom or mobility. However, men may suffer too, although it is mostly the women. For example, ideas about men, some negative masculinities like man force, how a man should behave, are also restricting and may harm them. However, when we are talking about gender-based discrimination, it is mostly, of course, women. Now, gender discrimination works through two specific strategies: undervaluation and different treatment, which actually women face or experience in their everyday life, every day, but may not be aware of, especially when it comes to the workplace. Now, undervaluation, I'm sorry, means lowering the capacity, undervaluing a person because of gender. The only reason for this discrimination is, or undervaluation, is gender. And there are some sub-dimensions of undervaluation: differences in recognition, in opportunities, in evaluation, standards and expectations. All our sub-dimensions are related to each other. For example, differences in recognition can lead to lower salaries, because if a person is not recognized to deserve a certain amount of money when compared to a man, this actually causes lower wages. Differences in opportunities is also a dimension of undervaluation, because accessing some social status, resources like scholarships can be restricted because of gender discrimination, of course. Evaluation standards and expectations are highly related to each other, and actually evaluation standards are biased standards, and especially they are experienced in the workplace, because a person may be evaluated by not having some skills for a specific job, because he or she, of course, she is a woman. Then based on gender roles, of course. Expectations is similar. These are expectations based on gender roles. For example, a woman is expected not to understand how a car engine works. Or on the other side, a man is expected not to feel comfortable, to feel uncomfortable around emotional displays. Okay, these are biased standards based on gender, and these are all sub-dimensions of undervaluation. The second one is different treatment, which is a more direct way, which can be experienced directly, because it is reflected in behavior, in overt behavior, and this actually includes respecting less because of gender, isolating, avoiding support, and even verbal abuse. These are also behaviors experienced by women in their everyday life and also in the workplace. And these are actually the main strategies of gender discrimination. Now, actually, to prevent discrimination, the only way is to ensure gender equality. And therefore, I will continue with the gender equality issue. And gender equality is important for all areas of our life. And there has been a progress in terms of gender equality across the world, of course. For example, more girls are accessing education, fewer girls are forced into early marriage, or more women are in the workplace, or even serving in political circles like parliament. And every day, more and more laws are being reformed to ensure, or at least to advance, gender equality. However, gender inequality remains in all areas. Discriminatory laws still remain, or violence is still, gender-based violence is still wide across the world. And this actually shows us that gender inequality, stereotypes, and traditional gender roles persist in our life. Now, we can look at some data actually related to the gender gap, which based on a report, the Global Gender Gap Report, which will show us the gender equality across the world. But in 4 main areas, for example, when it comes to economic participation and empowerment, we see that women are involving in the labor market increasingly. However, inequalities in this line remain, especially when it comes to unpaid care work and the gender pay gap. This means for the same job, women are paid less than men globally. And unpaid care work is actually still being performed mostly by women. And this is one of the reasons why women cannot enter the labor market or paid work in this line. Then, according to the Global Gender Gap Report, it will take 267 years to close the existing gap, gender gap, of course. But the gender gap in political empowerment is bigger. According to the report, only 26% of women are represented in parliaments and only 22% in ministries. And it will take 145 years to close the gap. When it comes to education, numbers are promising, because according to the report, as I mentioned, more girls enter school. The gender gap has almost been closed, but equality is reached only in 37 countries out of 156. Okay. And of course, the numbers does not show us that there are no inequalities in the education area, because gender bias, stereotypes, traditional understandings persist in education, and especially is represented in behavior or even in teaching sorry, structures. For example, it is known that women are less encouraged to engage in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. And this is a reason for inequality in those areas. Again, in health area, the gap, gender gap seems to be closed. Again, in numbers, because several studies during the COVID-19 period showed us that women were more restricted to reach health services during the pandemic or at the crisis situation. Then actually it is not only about numbers. When we look at the best countries in terms of gender equality, the first is Iceland for the 12th time, and it is followed by Finland, Norway, New Zealand, Sweden, which is not very surprising. Namibia and Rwanda actually made a strike in recent years and are very close to close the gender gap in numbers. And again, when it comes to the numbers or in terms of the gender gap, we see that there are disparities across and within various geographies and regions. And as expected, Western Europe is the most progressed region, and it is followed by America, North America, and then Latin America, Eastern Europe and Central Asia, East Asia, and then the Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. The Middle East and North Africa region remains the area with the largest gap in terms of gender equality. And Turkey's report. According to this report, which I mentioned, 2021, Turkey ranks 133rd among 156 countries in gender equality. 140th in economic empowerment, 114th in political empowerment, in health, survival and education, it's in the hundreds. Not a very promising actually report in terms of Turkey. Now, as we are in the university, and actually we were expected to talk about the situation in our campus, I therefore wanted to add some information regarding academia globally and in Turkey, and even I will also give some information about Altınbaş University in this line. Now, in academia, there is much progress in terms of advancing gender equality. However, there is still inequality, of course, across the world. And the inequality is not only related to legal or organizational structures, mostly based on biases, the traditional biases, work-life balances, and so on. In Turkish academia, sorry, inequalities, gender inequalities, of course, exist. But these are not related to legal procedures. Actually, legally, there is no inequality since the establishment of the Republic. However, when we look at the numbers, we see that although half of Turkish academia is women, when it comes to the ranks, we see that the numbers decrease drastically. For example, although 40% of the assistant professors, the lower rank, are women, when it comes to the higher positions, professors, the number decreases to 24. And since there are no legal restrictions in Turkey, this means that there are bias standards for inequalities, glass ceiling, and even some man networking, gatekeepers within the academia, and therefore numbers are not showing us the full story actually in the reports. Yes. While I am reaching the end, I would like to talk about gender equality at Altınbaş University. In numbers, actually, it is promising. 60% of its administrative staff, 56% of its academic staff, and 52% of the managers, rectors, deans, vice rectors, and so on are women. But it is not only related to numbers, because Altınbaş University actually started to formulating its policies in all areas through the lenses of gender. And actually Altınbaş University prepared its own gender equality strategic plan, which will help to increase gender equality within the university, and the plan was actually prepared on the decision of the European Commission's own gender equality strategic plan. At the university, there is a unit for the prevention of sexual harassment and assault, a special unit which is a body of the Gender and Women's Studies Research Center. Both staff and students can apply to this unit, and there is not limited to gender, there is also a commission for protection against discrimination at Altınbaş University, which is a promising actually scene. Okay, now as I mentioned at the beginning, in order to prevent gender-based discrimination, gender equality should be ensured. And for this aim, actually, two strategies are key, very vital, very important. Gender mainstreaming and intersectionality are very important. This means gender mainstreaming means that you should include the gender perspective while formulating your policies at all levels, in all areas, which I think Altınbaş University tries to do. And intersectionality is also very important, as I mentioned at the very beginning, because gender-based discrimination is intersectional, and all women face different forms of discrimination along with gender-based discrimination. Many thanks for listening.
Thanks so much, Fulya Hocam. Okay, dear students, if you have any questions, we will be pleased to discuss those questions now within the Q&A session. Do you have any questions?
All clear.
Okay, I would like to ask something in order to highlight some points. To Doğuş Hocam, first of all, you have, in your presentation, you have underlined that you conducted fieldwork research in Dolapdere, as far as I remember, okay? I would like to learn, okay, whether you have observed a considerable difference in terms of quote-unquote racial discrimination towards the female migrants compared to the male ones. I would like to bridge your presentation with Fulya Hoca's presentation. And secondly, I would like to learn whether you have observed any sort of hints in terms of intra-group solidarity concerning the groups who are exposed to racial discrimination. Because we know that, we assume that there are different ethnicities claim to belong, quote-unquote, to same racial group, and when they are, for example, exposed to same discrimination practices, they may or may not somehow create bonds of solidarity. Have you observed hints of those solidarity? Thanks so much.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. It's very important questions. So I did conduct my data, part of my data in Dolapdere, but not only in Dolapdere. So there are other neighborhoods in Istanbul as well. I did collect my data, and so there are obviously, of course, differences in terms of the experiences between male and female migrants. That it is obviously gendered. The migration experience is very much gendered. This is what was visible, and their experiences of racism. It was intersecting with sexism as well. So a lot of female migrants who were working in these textile workshops, they were forced by their employers that they should have a sexual relationship with them. If not, then they will be, they will be sacked, or they will tell about them to the police, because all these female workers were undocumented migrants. So in the end, in order for not to be deported, some accepted the offer of or some forcibly did this, but others were refused to do it, and they were escaped. But this is not something male migrants are experiencing. So this is very much particular to being a female migrant, being a female undocumented and black migrant. They were also stating that when the African and black, being black woman is often associated with being a sex worker. They were also highlighting the fact that when they were walking on the streets, they receive a lot of sexist comments and harassment, sexual harassment, also from the men population. So this is also something that is very much a gendered experience. And the other question is about solidarity that's against racism. This is my new research project that I'm also looking into how in the cities of how conviviality is established in these metropolitan cities. So I am looking at whether migrants and refugees are get together to fight against racism. But what do I see in among African migrants? There are few African migrants were killed in Turkey, rather by the police, or when they were involved in fights, and they were in solidarity with each other and in fighting for the rights of each other. So how they do this? For instance, they meet, the Christian ones meet at the church every Sunday, and after the church, after praying, they get together. So they also talk about these things. They, for instance, they offer. They often be in touch with certain NGOs that might also provide them legal advice as well. So they are in a way that's sharing the information available for them with each other and be next to each other. So I haven't collected big data on how solidarity works among them. This will be my new research where I will be collecting data in May. But as far as I know, that there is solidarity, of course, networks among African migrants, but there are also, of course, differences between them. So as there are some are Christians, but some are Muslims as well. So Muslims are prestigious in compared to Christian migrants. It's because they are not undocumented, and they were often received like work permits or certain kind of residence permit as well, and some of them are on business visa, and after a certain time they will become a citizen as well. So the ones who I have spoken, that they're very grateful to Turkish people and Turkish society and Turkish government for the opportunities that they have. But of course, not all African migrants. So there are some differences amongst them.
Okay.
I hope this answers your question. Thank you.
All good. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Okay, would you like to add something more? Any questions? Okay, please. Dear student. Would you please introduce yourself first?
Hello. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Damilare. I'm from Nigeria.
Okay.
Okay, I want to thank both the first speaker and the second speaker. I have some questions and a little bit some observation as well. So, thank you very much, our first speaker. I, for one, when I first came into Turkey, I have been a victim of discrimination, not gender now, but based on my skin color, and I remember when it first came in, everything she said, I could connect with it because as she was saying it, I've been discriminated in the bus, in the metro bus, on the metro, a number of times, but it's okay. It's it's one of those things that we experience, but it's okay. It's fine. Now I feel comfortable more because I've spent up to like 2 semesters, so I know my way around. When I talk to people before, they don't want to answer me because I'm black or because of the language barrier, because I can't speak Turkish as much. But now it's better. It's better. I know my way around. Coming to school, the school has really helped me because I've been able to communicate with my friends, with my colleagues. When I see a fellow student, it does not matter if he or she is black or white. When I talk to them, especially if they speak English, they respond, and it's been very nice. In the school environment, discrimination in terms of color it's nothing, sincerely, and I appreciate Altınbaş University for that. So I can connect to that. Now my question goes to the second speaker, or my observation. My observation goes to the second speaker. In terms of Altınbaş University, I noticed I have been observing a trend. Okay, let me give an example. My senior colleagues, or the people that have been into the school, that have been in the school earlier than I am, maybe by 1 semester or 2 semesters, they tell me that, especially if you're a thesis student, they tell me that I think you should just change to non-thesis, because when you are doing thesis, when the time comes for you to do your thesis, your supervisor will not answer you, maybe because you are black, and I've been observing it. I've heard it over and over and over and over again, and sincerely it's scaring me. I've been thinking about it. I think I'm going to change to non-thesis so that my supervisor will not give it. Some people tell you the supervisor is not going to answer you when you send your mail. They don't answer you. They don't want you to do thesis and the rest. So I don't know if you can help us clarify it. What is the reason why this does not affect only Africans. I have Pakistani friends, people from Iran, people from Iraq, people from Morocco. Morocco is still Africa, but Iraq, Iran, they are not Africans. And they tell you that thesis, it's always difficult. Can you help me address it, please? So thank you once again. I appreciate you. Thank you.
So may I
Yes.
clarify?
Yes.
As far as I understood, you want to underline that the supervisors are more eager to provide help to female students compared to the male ones, huh? This is your observation.
Not just the female students, to people who are not Turkish. They help more, I think they relate more, or they want to help more to Turkish students.
All right,
Okay.
all right, all
Unlike
right.
other from other countries.
All right, all right. Okay.
Actually, this is not a question that can I answer, and I think it's a personal issue. I don't think there is a general tendency not to help international students while they are doing their thesis, because I have many international students and we are working together very well. And I actually it is only 1 month, a Pakistani thesis student is graduated under my supervision. I don't know about your observation.
Maybe I would like to say a few words upon it. Yani, I also don't think that we do not discriminate, but this is an observation and it's very valuable, okay? This is a feeling, okay? If this is a feeling, it's important for us. So we will do our best, okay, to combat with this feeling, okay? Because I think we involuntarily, indeliberately created such a feeling, okay? But we will combat in order to avoid such lines of thinking. Maybe it seems to us more easy to contact with students from same language. I don't know, but for my part, I have so many international students and I learn a lot from them. So I'm happy and honored to have international students. And there is another issue. Maybe there might be other factors which are not related to race, which are not related to ethnicity. Okay, for example, there might be some technical factors to contact with the international students or something like that. But we should discuss all this, so your feeling and observation is very important for us. Thanks for your point. Okay. Do you have any other questions? Would you please? Yes. Okay, you are please.
Thank you for being here.
Okay. We are also, then if you don't have any questions, do you have? Yeah?
First of all, I would like to thank you for today. I had a question. If gender discrimination, if religion plays a factor in it, because I come from Pakistan and we have a lot of religions. And I've seen women being treated differently due to their religion. And they can dress as they want if they are Christians. But if they are Pakistanis, they should dress according to the norms. So my question is, if you think that religion plays a big factor when it comes to gender discrimination.
Yes, as you have observed, of course, religion has an impact on actually creating the standards and the gender roles. If you look through the religious standards, then you actually have another framework for treating the woman. However, it is also intertwined with the culture. Of course, religion and culture are intertwined, and it is very hard to change the standards. I understand what you mean, but the global actually effort to change the standards and to change the biases, although very slow, is still promising, I think, and Pakistan or similar other countries will obey, I think. I hope, actually. Turkey is not very different than Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, it is important.
What else? Any questions? We would be pleased to hear your questions, dear students. It's a great opportunity for you. So far, so good then? Okay. Thanks so much. It was a pleasure to host those distinguished speakers and to host all of you as well. Okay. That's all for today. See you.
See you.
Thank you.